Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ronnie Yeagerman. I'm an active director at Waterways Technology, an Israeli agri-tech company which is traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange Venture Part. We specialize in bringing smart irrigation, drip irrigation technologies from Israel, selling them worldwide to farmers all over the world, utilizing water, helping them grow much more efficient and much more smarter, and utilize much less water, which is becoming a very scarce resource in the world.
It is, Ronnie, lovely to have you on board, and I'm delighted to be talking about this subject as well. If you don't mind, give us a bit of your background. What's your history? Where are you from?
Oh, I'm native born in Israel. I'm an entrepreneur. I floated my first company in Europe in 1998 as an entrepreneur and investor in an Israeli lens inspection system, which we took public on the new market in Europe, brought it from 28 million euros to 250 million euro valuation in 2 years, created one of the largest optical equipment companies in the world. And we sold it to one of our key competitors in 2001 when the stock market went down. In 2009, I led a group of investors into one of the first companies doing broadcast TV over the internet. The company was Pure TV. We floated the company on London's A market in 2010. And in 2011, I left the company and became an investment banker, was involved in 6 Israeli tech offerings on London's A market as an IPO advisor. And in 2018, I shifted my focus to Canadian capital markets, and Waterways Technology was the first company I took public in Canada. I'm an active director, day-to-day director of the company.
Thanks, Ronnie. So you were making money. Did your shareholders make money in those companies?
My shareholders made companies, most of them, yeah, sure. And even in Waterways, they right now are profitable. You bet.
Good. Okay. Well, I'm intrigued by the technology. Obviously, water becoming scarce as a resource. Certainly, people talking that language anyway. Can you just describe the competitive environment? You can't be the only people doing this.
No. We come from very arid land. Israel in an arid land. 60% of the land is desert. And although that we're food self-sustainable, we export food all over the world, especially to Europe. And that's because of the reason that in the last 50 years, Israeli agriculture had to develop a very unique technology using low amounts of water to irrigate crops. And that is sort of technology which we sell worldwide. We predominantly sell drip irrigation technology, which means that you have a hose which you put in the field. That hose has holes, and water is transferred through these hoses and dripped into the root of the plant. It drips both water and fertilizers together, making it the most efficient and best technology to irrigate crops ever. Of course, you can't use it for crops like wheat and barley, but you can use it for everything from growing grapes to cherries to avocados to trees to whatever other crop in the world.
So high value crops, right?
Yeah, mainly.
Right, because they got to be able to afford to pay you to do what you do, but
not really, because we've just finished a huge cotton irrigation project in Uzbekistan, which is in Central Asia. Not that cotton is not a high value crop; it's certainly not it's like a mid value crop. So not really. Tomatoes aren't a high value crop. It's something essential. Cucumbers, these are things which we need for our daily living. So we try to focus on value, on high value crops, but not necessarily.
Okay, interesting. I was just using a phrase from the front page of your PowerPoint, was you talk about high value protected crops. What was the difference there? What was the definition? or protected crops?
High value are crops which the farmer gets actually more price per kilos than others. So it could be avocado, it could be cannabis, it could be blueberries, but it could be also cherry tomatoes and other crops like that.
So far you made it sound quite simple. It's piped with holes in it, feeding water and a bit of fertilizer. Where's the clever bit?
Oh, this technology is patented. There's big IP around it, and smart. Funny enough, we value the smart irrigation business at about between $3.5 to $4 billion a year. Well, get what? Israeli companies are about 80% of that market. So there's uniqueness in the way, it seems very, very simple, but it's actually very, very sophisticated. Chinese, Turkish, other companies have tried to copy, Spanish companies have tried to copy our technology, but really, we're dominant in the business. So Netafim, which is the largest company in the world in this business, had about a turnover about $1.2 billion, and it's really a giant.
Okay, are they making money?
Oh, sure, of course. They're not public, but they were bought 3 times already. So yeah, it's a money-making machine, sure.
Okay, fine. So,
and it's also, there's an ancillary industry like sprinklers, valves. There's a lot of it's a big industry. There's a lot of ancillary products, filtration products, and so on and so forth. Amiad, which is a partner of ours, which was traded on London's A market recently, traded in Tel Aviv. So it's a big industry.
I guess what I'm trying to get at, Ronnie, is why ask? What's the competition like? What's the size of the market? What's the smart bit? So far it's a bunch of hardware. Maybe a high cost of sale, but once it's implemented, it's there. You monitor it, I don't know, remotely, or is that all just sold on, or is it, software as a service? What's happening?
What our company, what Waterway specializes is in planning and delivering small scale projects to farmers around the world. So the big companies are interested, in tens of millions of dollars projects. Our niche in the market are small scale projects, anywhere between $1 to $4 million. It's not interesting enough for the giants. It's very interesting for us. And what we bring to the table, we're like, if you wish, a systems house. So we are smart, and what we have is our brains is bringing all that composition of 1,000 components into one solution. So an irrigation system has roughly 1,000 components. You need to know what you're doing. You need to know how to deliver the water when there's if you wish, there's an irrigation menu for each crop. So you irrigate mangoes differently than you do tomatoes. It's a whole industry, and you need to provide farmers with this know-how, and they count on you. So that's pretty much what we do. We do relatively small scale projects. We're very good at it. I'll give you an example. I discussed previously Uzbekistan. So we're already in a 3-year business there. We first took a small field of the business was $500,000, and because we're so good at what we do, we were able to win our largest project this year, which was $4 million American dollars in scale. And because you bring good solutions, they'll pick on you more and more. Same happened in the cannabis business. We're today probably most dominant in Israel. Our first project was Cronus. Cronus is one of the 4 or 5 industry giants in the world, a Canadian company. They wanted a complete irrigation IoT system, which means they did a joint venture with the kibbutz in Israel, growing medical cannabis for the Israeli market. Probably want to export at one point when our government will finally let cannabis to be exported from Israel, but that's a different story. But we were chosen, although we were the most expensive bidder. because we developed a unique control system that enabled Cronus to remote control both the cultivation and the irrigation of the cannabis greenhouse in Israel through the web. So nobody could do that. That's why we won the tender.
That's one. But let me get to it, Ronnie, because I want to understand how you make money, and I want to understand the sales process and what people are buying into. Okay, so you've got 1,000 parts. And each of those parts needs to be fixed together. Someone's got to do that. Right. They cost you money. They break down. You've got the cost of sale of getting in front of someone and then trying to close that deal down. You've got there's maintenance and so forth contracts. There's service agreements. There's a lot of moving parts that you're putting together. A lot of IP, a lot of intelligence, and you're helping farmers get better. So those things cost money. What's the payback on average there? Take this 4 million. Well, it's not average, but let's say it becomes the average.
That's one of the key part of our disadvantage of this market, because it's a very competitive market. On one hand, also it's competing against maybe flood irrigation, not only into smart irrigation. Then our margins, our gross margins are rather low. They're about between 20 to 25%. So we need to be very efficient, which we are. We have only 22 employees in the company we did 12 million Canadian dollars, which is roughly 10 million American dollars in sales for the first half of the year. So we need to be very efficient. But that's the nature of the business. So it's fine, and we're making money.
Okay, so but that's a gross number, not a net number. So the gross is about 20. Let's say 20 on those sales. The net number will come with scale, presumably.
Right. The EBITDA, our current EBITDA is between 8 to 10%. Right. Which is nice. Right. And we're at a growth rate of 78% year over year.
Where's the stepping point come? What sort of, I get the niche. The interesting thing there you said a second ago was the niche here. We're going after the $1 to $4 million sales. That's interesting. You're not trying to compete with the big boys. But the cost of sale component is important here, and the number of those deals around. What are you estimating the size or your share of that portion of the market to be? What's the potential?
I believe that the small scale smart irrigation business is about $1 billion. And we're maybe 2% of that. So we've got so much room to grow, like unbelievably. And we demonstrated that in two markets where we're becoming very familiar. One is Canada. So we shifted before we went public, we're probably more focused on Central and South America and Africa. And what we did is, that's how we also intend to grow. After we went public, we raised money on the Toronto Stock Exchange. We acquired the asset of a Canadian irrigation distributor who was selling about $2 million a year Canadian. I know it's an international audience, so let's say $1.5 million American. I apologize. I think in Canadian dollars. Because we put our technology and our know-how into the company, we grew the company from $2 million into $4.5 million within a year and a half. We did the same in China. Think of the huge Chinese market. They dearly respect Israeli technology in China. And before we went public, we had a distributor in China who was buying components with us and then putting his small projects, especially in apples and bananas, in China. And we acquired his assets. And now, last year was pretty tough in China because of COVID. But this year already, in the first half of the year, we finished sales of $1 million in China alone. And those sort of acquisitions are driving also our gross profit higher, because when we sell direct to the farmer, not through distributor, we have now a 35 to 40% gross margin, which is becoming interesting. And once we get enough volume, we grow the company into tens of millions of dollars. I would expect that we buy a manufacturing facility that would actually support our systems.
Right. Okay. I'm sort of intrigued by this because this sector, you say there's a bit of competition, big boys, some people competing with you here. What is the scaling opportunity here? You're talking about tens of millions of dollars there, but with gross margins like you're describing, it's going to take a while to get there. You got to keep plowing money back into the business. The profitability component, does it matter in a business like this? Are you going to continue? Are you going to be able to go out and raise money even though you're not profitable because you're saying we're capturing market share? I mean, how do you play it?
Let's first of all put out the facts. Okay, we had a rough year in 2020 and lost money. It was COVID. But this year, we finished the first half of the year with $12 million of sales. And it was non-GAAP EBITDA was 1.2 million Canadian, so 10% cash flow positive. And we went to the market. The stock is currently finished trading at 26 cents on Friday. End of June. We went to a Canadian broker and myself in Israel. We raised in about a week at 12 cents, $4.4 million. That was easy to do. So we actually have about 71 investors who came in. Guess what? They're happy investors. We doubled the stock, more than doubled the stock. We also gave each investor a warrant for every share to be executed at 18 cents. Now the stock is 26 cents. We expect some of the warrants execution coming in, but we have a forced conversion within the next, I think, 10 months from now. If the stock trades about 24 cents, then all warrants have to be executed, which means another $6.6 million. And I dearly believe that those are going to be executed, which means that we'll have funds available at about 10 million Canadian, which is roughly $8 million American dollars, which will sustain a very nice acquisition for the next 2 years. Okay,
and with regards to, while we're talking about money, okay, so when you make a sale, is there a tail to it? Are you selling the hardware?
There's a very small tail of both consumables for filtration systems, for hoses, and some service and some kind of service. But we're not your normally Gillette type of business. Okay, but we are a fundamental business for those investors who want to invest in water and irrigation. I don't think there's a lot of opportunities worldwide of a company like ours. And we have a vision to become the third or fourth larger player in the world of smart irrigation within the next 3 to 5 years, and we can grow that both through technology, through manufacturing, and through mergers and acquisitions.
I'm trying to work out what you're selling. The hardware bit, are you selling any IP? Are you selling because you're going and saying, hey, we'll increase the productivity of your crop, whatever it may be, right? So benefit to you, well done. But for them, why can't you kind of create a situation where, have you thought about creating a situation where there's kind of a longer tail to it and a fatter tail?
Yeah, we are the heart of an irrigation system is in the control unit. Okay, that's where the key. It's a control unit which has a PLC, programmable logic computer, and has to be very smart. You have to fix in a lot. You have to fix in a lot of data into that PLC, and that's part of the things we're selling as our IP into system, which we sell worldwide. We found we are collaborating with a PLC manufacturer, but they're manufacturing it actually for our needs specifically, and our software engineers do the programming. So it's not a lot of cost into the whole system. If you put in $1 million of irrigation, maybe the PLC itself or the control unit maybe is 20,000 grand or something like that. But it is what differentiates us from other companies which are more hardware or plastic, if you wish, plastic or filtration based. This control unit, which we see advancing in every project we do, is part of the smartness of an irrigation system.
And you sell that, you don't license it?
Yeah, we sell it. Of course, we sell it.
No, but I mean, you don't license it, as in you keep ownership and charge it. Right.
Don't.
Okay.
We don't. And we see the future in big data, in data which is collected from satellites, in data which is collected from soils. Increasing the smartness and the big data that the system will have, and maybe once we'll have a SaaS-based solution as well.
Right. Okay. Interesting. That will be very interesting indeed. So you must get asked a lot about it, because people are talking net zero this, net zero that, right? So you got your system in place in terms of, are you net zero? Is the energy required to run this allow you to be net zero? I mean,
what do you mean by net zero?
As in, you're going to have net zero carbon here, or in terms of the energy, in terms of the manufacturing of the materials which you install.
Got it. Well, first of all, think of it first. We're very green. Okay, just by the water we conserve, and the fact that we create more crops per area than any other irrigation system in the world. I'm not saying ours, but this concept of irrigation makes us extremely green. We also use in some system brown water which is recycled. So the whole process which we do is very, very green. In some instances, you use solar energy to get all the energy for the greenhouses, for the illumination and stuff like that. It's not a one thing, because it depends on the country. But yes, the whole system, we try to be as green and energy cost effective as we can. But I think this is important. But the most important thing is that we don't use a lot of water.
Yeah.
Water is becoming scarce. I mean, look, there's a huge drought in California. They don't have any more water to irrigate. They used to flood irrigate. They don't have that water anymore. Same in Canada in summer. I believe also, in mainland Europe, we're having very hot and dry summers. And I've seen that in Europe. I go frequently. So people will have to conserve water. It's getting less and less because it's scarce.
No, I agree with you. They've obviously macadamia nuts and almond nuts in California, the big ones that people talk about a lot. And obviously we've seen some horrific photos of water reserves out there for sure. But where I was kind of going with that is because with a small company with restricted budgets, it's hard to be completely holistically green. It's something you typically work towards, right? All the plastics you use in terms of manufacture, it's actually hard to do that out of the gate, isn't it?
One of the products we sell in Canada is it's called Smudge, but it's recycled plastic which covers the crops in the winter in Canada.
Oh, yes, yes.
After it's used, it evaporates. So
fantastic.
It's actually a very green product that we're using in Canada. We don't use it yet in other territories, but it's something that's very unique to our Canadian business.
Okay, and now one that's sort of a little bit topical to a lot of the investors on our platform certainly is I'm going to mispronounce this, apologies in advance, Amiad partnership that you've announced recently. Tell us about that and what you're hoping to achieve and what they want from it.
Amiad is one of the. It's an Israeli company that was. I think it went public in 2003 in London's A market, if I recall, maybe 2006. It's now listed in Tel Aviv Stock Exchange because it's one of the reasons I left London, because the London A market pretty much is dying or died. But unfortunately, I love working in London. So we're bringing smart filtration systems into the Canadian market. Amiad has no business in Canada, and I think now it's a key sales driver for us in selling smart irrigation systems, and one of it is filtration systems to the Canadian farmer.
Right. Okay. And what are the other applications outside of agriculture for it?
I believe in, I really believe in focusing. I mean, okay. We did once something in water, a water reservoir in Cameroon about 4 or 5 years ago, which is off our business. But I really don't believe it. We know best to irrigate. I wouldn't. I like to be focused in our core business.
Okay. A question sent in was basically, could this be used to decontaminate water-intensive processes in mining?
For sure. But we're not there. It's not our business.
Focus on the sales. Focus on the sales.
Focus on the sales. Focus on our clients. We want to sell more to existing clients and get more sales through irrigation. We're not serving the mining industry.
Okay. Do farmers really care about the green component? How much of your assessment is built on the green component? Do they just care about productivity? They
care about productivity. They want to,
they want to make money, right?
Farmers, they're in constant, their component prices are increasing. Plastic, now is everything is increasing. They're really focused on productivity and making money, getting more crops per area. That's the most important thing. The better crops, better quality, and so on and so forth. We just actually started also exporting Israeli know-how, not only irrigation. Around the world. The Israeli date is the best in the world, a machul date, which is the best-selling date in the world. Dates are excellent. They're an excellent fruit. And we closed about a month ago about $1 million project in Vietnam, where we're delivering the whole system from seed to irrigation to a Vietnamese company.
See, that now we're getting interesting. One of my questions further on was going to be, what business are you in? Okay. Are you in the irrigation business or the food productivity business? Because you talk about seed, like whether it be fungus resistant seeds, hydro panels, etc. How do you define your business?
At this point, we define it to irrigation, just to be focused. But I think going down the road, you'll see us delivering around the world some very good know-how in cultivation of crops, because we have developed in Israel unique technology to cultivate a lot of crops. We have the best we have the best avocado cultivation technology in the world. Same with dates. It used to be oranges. Used to go down to Marks and Spencer and buy Jaffa oranges. They were excellent, but that was taken away for us from Spanish and Italian farmers, Moroccan.
I think you took it from them. Just to be clear.
I actually think Jaffa was, it was before the birth of the state of Israel. So I don't really agree to that, but I'll give you another story. You eat cherry tomatoes. I don't know if you know that, but the cherry tomato was invented in the Weizmann Institute in Israel. So today, cherry tomato seeds are sold around the world. And he's the father of a friend of mine who was one of the two inventors, and he's getting royalties to this date, and so is the Weizmann Institute.
Beautiful.
So that very tasty cherry tomato that you can buy, that it looks, it's not round, it looks a little bit like an ellipse, is an Israeli invention, and it's very tasty.
I'm a big fan. So can I just if I look at the map of where your business, you've got the Canadian company which you picked up, acquisition, $2 million turnover. I mean, what did that cost you? How do you pay for it?
You get $500,000 for that Canadian, so 400 American.
You got
nothing.
Like nothing. It's great. You got a partner in
Yeah,
China.
we turned it into $4 million of sales in a year. That's not a bad ROI.
You should be happy. China.
Our investors are happy.
Should be. You're up 5 times, so it's good. But I mean, where I'm going with this is, you on a map it looks good, but this it's what are we today? We're a sort of $35 million Canadian business, and you've talked about the turnover.
Less than that. We finished 12, so it's less than that. On a run rate is about 2024.
2024. Okay, fine. So on a map, it looks good. So what's the plan here? More M&A, or are we going to go organic for a while? Pardon the pun. How do you build this?
I think really, I can't give you a lot of forward-looking statements being a director of the company, but yeah, the focus would be M&A.
Okay. And what do you think you have to prove to be able to, what more do you have to prove to go out to market to say, give me some money, I've got some perfect takeover targets? Are they going to continue to be these sort of small businesses, or at what point do you start, looking up to the stars?
I don't think we'll go back to the market for money unless there's a huge opportunity. I've done that. In my past experience, I floated the company with $5 million of sales in 1998. And I had enough of chutzpah, that's the Hebrew word for it, to go to Rodenstock, which was a $500 million German lens company, and bought their equipment division for about, I think it was 24 million euro at the time. And, closed the deal in 2 weeks in Munich. So I do have experience in doing these sort of deals.
Okay. So potentially more of the same. That's the way to get the scale for this thing quickly. And what did you think is driving the interest? You've got 71 new investors. You raised the money, 4.4 million Canadian. And I know there's been a few other little bits and pieces raised previously. But what's driving this? Is it this kind of, at the moment we're saying green stories, everything's been, greened, whatever the sector, right? Do you think this whole ESG greenification thing is helping you at the moment, or has this water story been long time coming?
I'll give you what I think. I haven't talked to all of the investors. I think there's a few things. When we first started our private placement in Canada, which was before we went public, which was, I think, beginning of 2018, then you just had to say the word cannabis and money was thrown at you. Okay, and we do have cannabis business in the business, as I said, as I discussed before with Cronus. But we've seen into two things which I think drive investor interest into our story right now. The first thing, we're growing and profitable. Okay, and we're traded on the venture exchange. I think. There's 1,600 companies traded on the venture exchange. I'd say probably only 5% are profitable. So that's one thing to drive investor sentiment. Second thing, and that is what you said, I think we've seen a shift to interest both in ag-tech and water. So currently we're at the, timing is everything in life. And we're in the right place at the right time. People understand water. People understand food shortage. With COVID, there's huge supply and transport problems still today. The cost of maritime transportation has risen, 5 or 10 times. So for some crops, it doesn't even pay to import them. So countries who sustain their own agriculture and grow their own crops, be it in open field or greenhouses, are happy. And other countries who don't have that opportunity, I believe in some countries, some kind of fruits and vegetables are just not in the market because they're becoming too expensive.
So coming back to the map point I made, which is, where do you expect, okay, China, Canada, Israel, where are the sales coming from for you? Or does that also link into the M&A component?
Right now, yeah, it's an excellent question. Okay. Currently our sales predominantly because of the Uzbekistan project, which came from China and Asia. Okay, that was the high sales. We have a very nice business in Peru and other countries in South America, and we have very nice business in Canada. Our focus would be North America, for sure, because the opportunity is there. The shortage of water is beginning there as well. And the largest smart irrigation business in the world is the United States, and we're not there at all. So there's a huge opportunity in the United States for us going after the North American, but the U.S. market, which is, I believe, the Canadian irrigation market is about $100 million a year. I think the U.S. market is about between $3 to $4 billion a year.
Okay, you mentioned you've done a few IPOs, right? There's a bit that intrigues me, and you've also.
I think it's 18 to 19 I was involved in.
Right. Okay. So then the answer to the next thing is really important. Okay. And you've also mentioned that only 5% of TSX-V companies actually make money. Okay. Are you a businessman who wants the business to be successful, or are you a markets guy who just needs to play the market? What turns you on?
In waterways, the company. I've been. We had rough times. We want to make money. We want to be a profitable and growing company. That's how the best way this business is grown. I mean, I'm not a markets guy in that sense at all. I get up in the morning and I like what I do. I do because I hear and help the company grow. And I think we're actually doing some good in the world. I mean, if we now have a project in Ethiopia and have some African farmers, enabling them to export mangoes to Europe and make money, I think we're actually doing good to the world. Same a country like Peru. I mean, we had in the end of 2019, we delivered very smart filtration systems to one of the largest flower growers in Colombia and enabled it to export to North America. So, we're doing some very good stuff in third world countries.
And does your product allow countries or farmers in countries or agricultural businesses in countries like that to be able to offset? Because the supply chains around the world, prices going up, obviously, but, supermarkets controlling people's margins and, distribution companies controlling farmers' markets and so forth. I mean, is that part of the appeal here, the kind of optimization of their crop output whilst they're being squeezed at the other end?
Exactly. Their price of crop is fixed.
Right.
So anything you can save on growing the crop goes into their pockets. They understand that. All around the world. You're so right. I mean, Tesco can come and, they dictate the crops in areas. I've seen that in other businesses that I had. So any cent or any dollar which you can save on anything or any better yield goes right into
bottom line
of the farmers.
Yeah,
for sure. We have a business with Driscoll. Driscoll is the largest blueberry grower cultivator in the world.
Yeah.
And we've started a business with them in China. So they're all over the supply chain, but they didn't choose us because we were
nice
inexpensive.
Guys.
They choose us because we knew what we were doing, and they thought we could bring them a lot of knowledge for the bottom line. That's the only thing.
It's always about that. Yeah. We're not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. Same for your investors. So I would say, thank you very much, Ronnie. That's a really good introduction to the business, the sector, quite frankly. We will go away and do a little bit more work and try and understand what's going on out there, who the other players are. Best of luck. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you so much for hosting us. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And if you have any questions, please come back to me. I'll be happy to answer you.